How's it going, guys? In today's video, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about philosophy and the pursuit of knowledge, pursuit of wisdom, rather, um, and why it is so important, especially nowadays, when everybody is consuming our content. All of our content is being consumed on our phones and our computers, and it's not exactly social media isn't exactly the problem per se. However, it is a very active it is a very active role in the problems of our society today. But that is to say that a lot of people's problems, such as short attention spans, can be traced back to, consuming too many TikToks on their phones. Not scientifically proven, of course, but I mean, what do you expect whenever you're sitting there hunched over scrolling through your phone for hours on end? And the longest video you watched, the longest you sat there was because you thought some reel was so great you had to comment on it. I mean, it's not exactly a productive use of our time. So here's where philosophy comes instead. Instead of filling our brains with nonsense and brain rot, if you will, let's try to fill our minds with positive energy, positive thoughts, and try to bring ourselves up in this world. Let's focus on philosophy and the study of wisdom. So, okay, where to start? So, I'm no professor, but when I think of philosophy, I think of the ancient Greeks. Geez, that was hard to say. But yeah, not gonna stop this one. Gonna keep going. I try to do these in one go. But I think of the ancient Greeks. I think of Aristotle, perhaps Plato, and I think of their philosophy. But what I want to talk to you today about is stoicism, which comes from that. It comes from these early philosophers who, along their training, they had students who they would train, disciples. Not disciples. What am I talking about? I guess in a way, but the point being that these teachings found their way into the minds of some very, very powerful men, Marcus Aurelius included, and he basically transformed this school of thought into a school of thought. Sorry, very corny, but yeah, we get stoicism from the ancient Greeks. We get it from the teaching of them passed down to Marcus Aurelius, and yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of that. But essentially, Stoicism, and I'll look up the definition. Stoicism is the practice of being stoic, which is having self-control in a sense. It's having the willpower to do something, not for your own personal gain. Okay, it's using people as an end, not a means to an end. And let me look at that. So the philosopher Immanuel Kant said that rational human beings should not be treated as an end in themselves, and not as a means to something else. The fact that we are human has value in itself. Sorry, a bit confusing. Basically, the idea is to value people for their own inherent worth and not simply use them as a tool to achieve your own goals. That is kind of what we're going for. But back to Stoicism. Stoicism is a philosophy that originated in the ancient Greece and Rome and encourages people to live a simple life by focusing on virtue and what they can control. So let's break that down. So it originated in ancient Greece and Rome, which I talked about a little bit. It encourages people to live a simple life. We'll touch on that a little bit, but focusing on virtue and what they can control. What is virtue? Virtue is behavior showing high moral standards. So basically, if somebody is virtuous, then they are somebody who has high morals. They think highly of themselves and they do good by other people because it is just their nature. They're not expecting something. They expect people to recognize eventually that, yes, I'm doing this good stuff and I'm a good person. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, a little bit of recognition goes a long way, but I mean, true believers will know that the only recognition, the only acknowledgement that you truly need is the Word of God. That will go the longest way. However, I'm not gonna say that everybody better convert now. I'm not this type of guy. I'd just like to show you a little bit about what I'm about. So Stoicism is a philosophy that originated in ancient Greece and Rome and encourages people to live a simple life by focusing on virtue and what they can control. So what can you control? What can you control in your life right now? Maybe pause the video and try to think about that for a minute. Now, what do I have control of in my life? And it might be a short list, it might be a long list, but it really just depends on how long you think about it. So one thing that stands out to me when I read that, what you can control is how you act and react to any given situation. So you might be given work You might be given a task at work and you think it is the dumbest fucking waste of time in the entire history of mankind, but your boss is pissed off and he needs this done and he's saying blah 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 blah, whatever the fuck. It doesn't matter. If you go to him and say, "This is the stupidest fucking piece of shit work you've ever had me do," he's not gonna like that. He's not gonna react well, and that's just kind of basic common sense. You have to use your intuition, and you have to use knowledge of previous examples to understand how your boss might react in that situation. However, it is also very important to realize that if you just kind of like half-ass it and don't do the work because you think it's bad, like it's like, okay, cool. Excuse me. It's like, okay, cool. You're gonna have more problems on your hand in the future rather than just putting in the work right there, right then and there, and getting it done and over with. Don't half-ass anything. If you're going to do something, put in the full effort, put in 100%, put in 110%, and do it right the first time. And if you can't do it right the first time, if you failed, try again. And so this is just a little bit about stoicism, but what you can control is how you react to any given situation. And what that does, what that can turn into is it can make you able to mold and change negative ideas, negative emotions into something else. You transform the energy. You think you have your self-doubt and you say, look, I don't think I can do it. It's too hard. It's too much work. I'm not good enough. Whatever it is, you are good enough. Let's get that one straight. However, you might not think you are. And so how do you turn that into something that can be useful instead of destructive? Well, you can say, okay, I'm not good enough yet, but once I try, I'm gonna be just a little bit closer to being where I want to be. And understanding from there that it's only gonna get easier. You are only going to improve more, and the task is only going to get easier. Now let that sit for a second. So now you've done a little bit of mental gymnastics. You're saying, well, I've failed. I tried this before and I know I'm not good enough and I failed. Well, let's say you have. And let's say you think it was the hardest thing ever. You wanted to do something so bad. You wanted to go and make this business, make it work, and you just couldn't. You had the motivation, you had the idea, you had what you needed to do. You just failed. And you thought, since you failed, that meant that you weren't good enough. That meant that your idea wasn't good enough. You thought it was something that you did. No, maybe it was something that you didn't do. No, maybe it was something that somebody else did. No, that wasn't it. So you just having to constantly figure out these problems, where your self-doubt, where this negative emotion is coming from, and confront it, and silence it by doing the doing the work by changing your attitude. Say I'm feeling depressed. Say let's say my bills came in. My bills came in, and I'm broke. I'm completely broke. But I am still healthy. I am still able to change the status of my bills by going out there and putting in more work, putting in more hours. Yeah, I'm able to change that. That is something that I'm able to control. And it's just important to realize, going all the way back, it is important to realize you need to focus on what you can control. So if it was something completely out of your control, let's say you got started as a small business owner, and your product, started to take off a little bit, but soon your sales plummeted because a competitor took over in the same area or in the same marketplace online, where their prices, their quality might have made for a better deal. And so it took your business away. Well, that was something out of your control. But what you can control is improving your own product to make something that's better than what the other competitor has presented. You got to make something even better, even more appealing. Even you got to cut down the price a little bit, whatever it might be. But yeah, this video is already going on a long time. Just going to recap it by saying focus on. So, stoicism. Stoicism is a philosophy that originated in ancient Greece and Rome and encourages people to live a simple life by focusing on virtue and what they can control. Live a simple life, focusing on virtue and what you can control. Treat people as a means is a bad thing. Treat people as an end, not a means. And that just means to value people for their own inherent worth, not simply use them as a tool to achieve your own goals. Emphasizing respect and dignity. So that's going to do it for today. I love you all. Hope you have a great day. Comments, questions, concerns below in the comments. Other than that, you guys have a great one. I'm going to go. Peace.